In this video, I'm going to discuss the upgrade from PrimeNG version 17 to 18 and then eventually to 19. 18 to 19, I don't see many changes. They came out with 19 pretty fast after version 18. 18 took a bit of time, and there were a lot of changes in 18. As long as you're aware of it, it's something that you can manage. If we look at the 18, it changes quite a bit here as far as the screen goes. But when we go into the Get Started and go down to Support, and in Support, we want to go to Guides. And in Guides, Migration to version 18 is where you want to go. And in here, you are going to see a lot of changes. They're going to discuss a lot. Calendar is no longer, it's now changed to Date Picker. Drop down is now Select. Input switch is now a toggle switch. And Overlay panel is now Popover. Sidebar is now Drawer. And then if we go down here, we see that Chips is now Multiple and use autocomplete with multiple enabled and type ahead disabled in order to use Chips. So they go through deprecated components here and what to use instead. Configuration has been replaced by PrimeNG. PrimeNG config has been replaced by PrimeNG, and the initial configuration is now done via the provide PrimeNG provider during startup. See the installation, make sure that you go over that. Don't just upgrade. Make sure you do this carefully. The themes have changed. If you have a theme that you're using, there's some old themes that are no longer provided. You're going to have to manually upgrade that yourself. Removed components. If you're not using these, there won't be any impact. But if you are using these, like the tri-state checkbox, that one you're going to use the regular checkbox with intermediate option. So they've combined, it looks like they've combined a lot of features from one component into another component. And remove style classes. So one of the things that I've seen when upgrading from an older version of PrimeNG to a newer version is issues with styling. And a lot of developers are called full stack developers, but their primary focus is back end, not front end, and they're asked to work on UI applications. Well, when you're working on UI applications, you really need to know and understand styling. To do your best, you really need to learn styling. There are a lot of good videos out there. I won't cover that because there are. Kevin Powell is one of the videos that I watch constantly. Kevin has a lot of good videos on styling and understanding it. There's no magic wand. You're just going to have to dig in and understand it. It's not a quick and dirty thing to learn. Now, if you go over to PrimeNG version 19, it's pretty much the same. Now, one thing to note when you're compiling, I've downloaded the source from GitHub for 17 and 18 and 19. For 17, they're still using NPM, the Node Package Manager. Node Package Manager has been what I've always used. There's Yarn, and there's a couple others. There's a new one now, PNPM. And the versions of 18 and 19 PrimeNG, they are now using PNPM to do the build. You don't need to use PNPM for your project. Just making you aware that they're using PNPM to do the build. If you want to download that and look at it and do a build on that, you'll need to use PNPM instead of NPM. Let's take a look at one of the differences in Mega Menu. The Mega Menu version 17 PrimeNG, when you hover over it, it will automatically open. This is something that's been a sore point for many years. In Angular 18, they fixed that. So when you hover over it, it does not open, not until you click on it. Once you click on it, it then behaves properly. So this is a good thing that has been fixed in Angular 18. If we look at 19, let's go to the Mega Menu. You'll see that it's still correctly behaving so what they did in 18 is now also in 19. 18 and 19 had some good fixes as far as the hover on the Mega Menu is concerned. Let's look at Calendar. So Calendar in the version 17 PrimeNG has been renamed to Date Picker. So if we look at it in 18 and in 19, we have Date Picker. Let's look at how it behaves here. So here we have January 1st of 2025 showing up as a Date Picker item. If we go over to here, that's actually Calendar, I'm sorry. Over here, it's Date Picker. So Date Picker works exactly like Calendar did in the old version. So there's Calendar and Date Picker. Another one that has changed in Angular 18 is drop down was removed, and now it's using the word select. They work exactly the same. So if I pick New York here on select, if I go back here to drop down, I pick New York, you'll see the drop down now has been renamed to select. And the same thing applies for Angular 19. Another one that we see changed is input switch became toggle switch. So input switch in Angular 17, or PrimeNG 17, this is how it behaved then. And now toggle switch does the exact same thing. So the only difference is it was renamed from input switch to toggle switch. Another change is overlay panel was renamed to popover. And as we look at it here, here's Angular or PrimeNG 17, and this is how the overlay panel works. If we go over to popover, it's exactly the same thing. It's just the name that was changed. That's another one to be aware of. Sidebar is another one that was renamed, and it's commonly used. So the sidebar pops up, or if you go down here, you'll see it come up at the bottom, or come off the side, or come off the top. So sidebar was renamed to drawer. It's exactly the same functionality. If we look here, so that's another one that has changed. Now let's talk about the deprecated components. So chips in Angular 17 has been replaced with autocomplete, and you have to use multiple enabling or enabled and type ahead disabled. Well, let's take a look at that. So here's the Angular 17. So if I type something here, hit enter, you see it gets a chip. So that's how chips work. Well, let's go look at here's the multiple without type ahead. So what I'm doing is I type the text and then I press enter. And so if I hit EE, hit enter, RR, hit enter, I get my tag. Well, or my chip. Let's go back over here again and DD enter, TER enter. So you can see they work identically, except it's now autocomplete multiple without type ahead. Tab menu. Now this one is a little confusing, so just be very careful. So if you go to the tab menu, we have tabs that we can click on, and this is under menu. Okay, so this is in PrimeNG version 17. If we go to PrimeNG version 18, it says, now this is, it says we're supposed to use tabs without panels. So here's tabs, here's tab menu. Now wait a minute. Let's take a look. This is in tabs, this is under panel. It's not under menu. If you go down and look at menu, you will not find tabs. So here's tab menu. Here's menu. You will not see tab menu. You have tiered menu, but not tabbed menu. So let's go back up to panel, go into tabs, and in here, scroll down. You're going to see tab menu. And tab menu is now under panel instead of under menu. All right, so this is something that you need to be aware of here. Pay close attention to that one if you're using the tab menu. Now steps is another one that was deprecated. Steps says use stepper without panels. So if we look at PrimeNG version 17 here, here's steps, that's down in the menu area. But over in the PrimeNG 18, version 18, it's up in the panel. And here is the horizontal. Let's go back and look at, this is talking about basic here. But here's an interesting thing about 17. 17 brought in stepper. So this is stepper. In 17, it's got stepper. So stepper on 17, you can see where they were actually bringing in stepper to start replacing steps. So if we go back here and look at steps, and you can see you've got import, basic, controlled, interactive, routing, style, and accessibility. PrimeNG 18 version. So in the PrimeNG 18 version, we have stepper here. We have import, horizontal, vertical, linear, steps only, template, and accessibility. Let's go back to 17, PrimeNG 17, and look at the stepper. It's a little different. So if you notice import basic, it doesn't have horizontal in here. Here's horizontal. They both have template. They both have accessibility. They both have linear. So the big difference is the horizontal is new to PrimeNG 18. PrimeNG 17, so these tabs up here, this is 17, this is 18, and I'm just using 19 here as my go-to for the other. But you can see here, stepper was introduced in PrimeNG 17, but they still had steps down here. So stepper, steps and stepper are the other thing you need to be aware of. Inline message. So it says here to use message component. This one I had to dig a little bit to understand what the difference is. So if we look at the PrimeNG version 17 here, we see messages, plural, and if we look at PrimeNG version 18, we see message. So message now is a component used to display inline messages. Back in 17, it says messages, plural, is used to display alerts inline. So that's what they're talking about. So you'll have to look at that one carefully and dig through it. So if we look here, severity, look here, we have severity like this. I don't see it up and down, right there maybe. So it looks like messages may be, here's a closable message. And that one auto disappears after a short time. So there's an attribute called life. It's in milliseconds. So right here we see life. It's 3 seconds basically. So it'll show, and after about 3 seconds it goes away. I don't see the old style unless you have it closable. So the old style, you have an icon and you have your message, and this icon is based on the type, the message type. Here's a secondary message and here's a contrast message. If we look here, I don't see icon. Okay, here's an icon, but it's not based on the severity. Success, info, warned. And you can put the icon in there, it looks like. We'll have to play with that one. Be aware that the messages is gone and just message is the component that you're going to be using there now. Tab view is another one that's been replaced. So instead of using tab view, which is in PrimeNG 17, we're now using the new tabs component. So let's look at 17. Here's tab view, and here's your tabs. Shows how that works. Here's dynamic tabs, controlled, and disabled tabs. Here's a disabled one. These work, but this one doesn't because it's disabled. We have a template here. So let's go back and look at, this is PrimeNG 17. Let's look at PrimeNG 18 now. So here's our tabs. So instead of tab view, it's tabs. Here's dynamic. Here's controlled. It's the same as the other so far. Scrollable, this is a new one. So you can have multiple tabs that are scrollable. I don't think I saw that. It's controlled, disabled, template. So scrollable is a new feature in tabs. Disabled. Disabled one there. These are enabled, so you can click on them. That one you can't because it's disabled. And template. And tab menu. See if it had tab menu. There's template. There's closable. Scrollable. Oh, they had scrollable there as well. It's just in a different. Okay, I don't see tab menu. So tab menu is over here now. So the thing to keep in mind is tab view is gone. Now you're just going to be using tabs. Let's take a look at accordion here. So accordion now has a header and a content component. Let's look at the PrimeNG version 17. And if we look here, this is where we're going to see things more clearly. Accordion tab is all we have available here. Let's look at the PrimeNG 18. So here we have our accordion panel, or accordion panel. We have a header and we have content. Let's go back and look at this. We have accordion to start out with. Accordion, okay, that's the same. Active index, just value there. Accordion tab, accordion panel. So instead of accordion tab, they're using accordion panel. Then in accordion header, you've got your header component, header piece there, and then you have your content. So over here, you got a header denoted by that property there, and then here you've got it that way. So make note that there's a major change in the way accordion works. It's actually a lot better. I like the way this is broken down into more manageable components. This is going to make it easier to work with accordions. So I like that. We've already discussed messages when we talked about inline message. So messages is gone and message is replaced it. P defer, it's saying to use the angular defer instead. So that's the deprecated components. This is what's breaking. So the configuration has changed quite a bit. So you need to pay attention to this very carefully. The SAS themes also has changed. Removed files, themes under PrimeNG resources, path migration to new styled mode is necessary. I'm going to need to do another video on this because this is going to be more detailed. These are the things that you need to be aware of. These style classes were removed. You may have it in your styles in your project. They're not going to do anything anymore because they're no longer used. I hope this helps. Hope you watch the next video where I'm going to discuss the styling of PrimeNG, and we're going to implement an older theme that no longer exists. So please watch the next video. Thank you.